Okay, everyone. So we have Carlos here today from Google. Carlos Bastos Neto is the head of Google Cloud Public Sector for Latin America, where he helps public and private institutions across the region harness the power of innovation and digital transformation. With over 20 years of experience, Carlos brings deep expertise in IT strategy, cloud solutions, and enterprise growth. Prior to Google, he spent over 15 years at Microsoft, leading digital transformation initiatives across Latin America. His work focuses on building practical, forward-looking solutions that empower organizations to thrive in the modern digital world. Please welcome Carlos Bastos Neto.
Thank you, my friend. Good morning, everybody. Which AI did you use in order to do this?
I'll tell you later.
It lies very well, this AI that you use. Now, first of all, thank you very much for putting all this together. I'm sorry for my English. So as you might see, I'm from Brazil, so I might make a few mistakes. I always like to open talking about this. And I love the fact that we have people in technology symposium in industry tracks, because sometimes you get too much into the tech stuff, right? The bits and bytes, and the world outside, it's about business, right? So it's good to have the balance between everything that you work in a daily basis and what you're going to face when you get out of here, right? And in order to share a little bit about my experience, as Mateus mentioned, I work at Microsoft, now I work at Google. Prior to that, I had a company by myself. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience, right? What happened in the path that I have been pursuing, or the journey that have been going on with you all. And then I will open for questions, and also I'm going to make myself available to each one of you. I have a lot of conversations with Mateus, so I like to talk with people that are getting into the market and try to help and try to make your life easier, because in many steps of my role, I didn't have someone like this to do that for me. So this is what the presentation is about. Let me move it here. So in order to start, right, I need to introduce myself, right? Just a very quick introduction, just for you to know who you will be talking with. And can you help me with it?
Yeah, I can help it, yeah.
Awesome. Because I like to walk.
Yeah.
So you can press one. So I was trying to find a way to summarize myself in a single slide. And then I found this cloud of words, right? And I started to write words about myself. And then I choose a form that is a person, and it came out like this. So here you have words that are going to explain who am I, right? What I like, and what is important to me. So as you can see, I'm from Brazil. I'm from Bahia, northeast region of Brazil, where the Portuguese arrived. They discovered Brazil in the city that I was born. So it was the first capital of Brazil. I have 48 years old. This is very big, right? So I'm getting to the 50s, so a long time. I'm much more closer to the end of my career than to the beginning. So please take advantage of that. I really love business management. I like to think differently and to kind of drive solutions to today governments and education institutions all across Latin America. But thinking differently for me is something that, I don't know, it is in my DNA. I also like a lot of those things that we cannot explain. So I'm a Taurus in the zodiac, and the Chinese horoscope, I'm a dragon. So I'm also a lot into that. I like to look towards the thing that we cannot explain, but at some way it resonates, right? I love tennis. I love soccer. Of course, I'm from Brazil. The real football, what we have here is not football, right? It's more handball. It's not with your foot, it's with your head, right? Tennis, we just had the Miami Open. We went to a few games over there. I like Formula One. Now it's a thing here in the US, but it has been always a thing back there in Brazil and in Europe and so on and so forth. I have two kids that are there, very shy. They don't want to show up. My wife is also here, married for almost 20 years. And family here is something that is very important to me, right? And friends as well, coffee that is over there. So this is me in a single picture, right? And then we're gonna talk a little about the journey, right? What brought me here? The role that drove me here. So first, and this is very interesting, I was in med school. My first college was medicine. So I don't know, the culture here in the US and in the other countries that you come from. But in Brazil, if you're a doctor, it doesn't matter if it's a lawyer or a doctor, right? And it's very important. So my family was, oh my God, he's gonna be a doctor. And whoa, this is amazing. And then I got my first computer when I entered med college. And I was kind of astonished about what I could do with that. And after 3 semesters, I took the decision against the will of my family to leave med school and to enter the technology school. So the point is, we take decisions very early in life. Are those decisions the right ones? So have an open mind, right? It doesn't mean that if you're doing this today, you need to do this for the rest of your life. One thing that you need to do is for the rest of your life needs to be something that you're going to enjoy, needs to be something that you're going to love, because you're going to spend more time working than anything else. So if you don't do what you really like, it's not that I didn't like medicine. I did. I like it a lot. But the point is, I like it more tech. Then I opened my company and I spent 6 years with my company. And what I learned in this path, in this moment of my journey is you need to know when to stop, even if it means to restart. And I was successful. I had a company, we were making good money. But I saw the market change, and we heard a lot in the opening today about the changes of the market, about what's going to happen with neurotech, with AI, and so on and so forth. So I saw that, and I said, hey, I cannot stick here. If I stick here, probably I'm not going to be successful. So I closed the company, and after being the owner of a company, I went back to be an intern. And from making thousands of dollars, I got into making hundreds of dollars. But it opened me new doors. And I was able to join Microsoft in 2006. I spent 15 years there. It was amazing because my first dog, the name I put on the dog was Bill Gates. So I had a passion. As a matter of fact, when I entered tech college, I bought Windows 95. Yes, I bought for you. I went to buy Windows 95 at an authorized Microsoft reseller, and they hired me. I heard them saying that they needed someone, and I said, hey, I just entered College of Technology. You can hire me. And they hired me. And my first work was with Microsoft products. After a few years, I was working in a Microsoft reseller, and Microsoft was hiring someone for the northeast region of Brazil. They had a position open for 6 months, and no one was able to go through the process. Do you know why? They didn't know how to speak English. There was no one in the northeast region of Brazil able to pass the English exam that was required to talk with the HR team for Microsoft. And I went there, an employee of Microsoft invited me because I work at a partner. It was not okay for a partner employee to join the company. They had to ask for an exception. But I went there, I took the English exam, I had a great grade, and they were able to hire me. And after 15 years at Microsoft, 12 of those in Brazil, the last 3 here in the US, I moved it to manage Latin America public sector region. An old boss of mine from Microsoft that was, he moved it from Microsoft to Google, then from Google to Microsoft, then from Microsoft to Apple, then from Apple to Google. And at Google, he said, hey, I have a project here that I believe you're going to be able to drive. And the last 3 years, I have been working at Google Cloud. That is something very important because people say Google. Google is a lot of things, right? From the Waymo cars that we have in San Francisco to Waze, Google Maps, the ads, the search, and the cloud that is the late entrant in the market. AWS started that market, then Microsoft and other players entered, and Google was the last one. So I worked on the Google Cloud division. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the environment, but not the environment that everybody talks about. What is necessary for you to thrive? What was important to me across the journey for me to thrive? So first thing, and I know that many of you are still young, enjoy your youth, but choose a right partner in life to go in that journey with you. This is very important because you're going to share everything, the good times, the bad times, kids. If you decide not to have kids, you're going to share your vacations, but you need to have someone where when you go back home, you feel complete. So enjoy, have a lot of people, choose wisely, right? But choose the right one. This is critical. People say, and it's a very, how can I say, oh my God, I'm not fond of the English word for that. But it's not, it's, okay. It's behind every man, you have a great woman, right? But forget about it, it's not man. It's behind every great person, you have a great partner. So it's fundamental. Then family. And family for me, it has like a huge advisor in my career. There was, come back to it. So what happened was we used it to have an office, a Microsoft office in Brazil, where I used it to go every day. And they decided to close the office. And I said, oh my God, I'm screwed. I'm gonna work at home. Kids were small. It's gonna be a lot of noise. I'm not gonna be able to perform anymore. And as you might imagine, many years prior to the pandemic. So the reality that we live today is completely different. But then I moved into home office very early in my career, and it was amazing. First, you need to set a place for you to work. When you enter there, you're working, your family knows that you're working, but if you have a tough meeting, if you have a very bad conversation, you get out, you hug your kids, you kiss them, you go back refreshed. I never could do that in the office. So it helped me a lot, and it took me something that helped me in the future years. That was, I was able to learn how to manage teams remotely much prior to the pandemic. This was a huge asset. Today, I manage people in Peru, in Argentina, in Brazil, in Colombia, in Chile. And it would never be possible to do that in a physical location, right? Because you need to be close to your customer. You need to be face to face with your partners. And the manager needs to be somewhere. So I was able to learn that very early, and my family was a great lesson for me in order to get there. Friends, our life is about networking, is about the company and the people that we are surrounded with. As a matter of fact, in our life, we are the sum. There is a research that we are the sum of the 5 to 6 people closest to us. So choose your friends wisely. Have those people that you can count on and that they can count on you, whatever happens, because life is not always going to be great. You're going to have a lot of problems. And if you have problems at your house, you need a friend to talk. If you have a problem with your friends, you need your family to talk. So the combination between friends and family is critical in order to be successful. And then challenges. An easy life is not a good life. It's a boring life. Problems are amazing because problems are opportunity. If you are able to face a problem with an open mindset and do not see that as a real problem, but see you as the solution for that particular problem, you're gonna do great things. We just saw something like that with Ray, right? So I was talking and was researching how old is the guy that was speaking. Man, his company is valuated in $600 million. $600 million. The guy that you were talking to. Right? So he saw a lot of problems early in his career, right? He said, those problems are an opportunity and I'm going to do something on that field. And as bigger the problem is, the bigger the opportunity is. So don't choose the easy path. Choose the complex one, because it's on the complex ones that you're going to learn. It's the complex one that you're going to make money. It's on the complex one that you're going to achieve great things. And then choose a role model, a model, right? I chose Albert Einstein and this particular quote, right? Try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value. And it has worked for me. By being a man of value, I was able to be a man of success. But don't go into shortcuts. It's a long journey. It's going to take time. It's not going to be a straight line. It's going to be a bumpy road. It's going to be complex, but do not lose your values. Don't do anything that is against the way you were raised, the culture that you believe, and mainly against you. Don't do anything that is against what you think. If someone or some company or whatever do not agree with your values, say, I'm sorry, and leave. That's not a problem. We need to have choices. We need to be open to whatever comes in front of us and make the right choices, taking into consideration our values. And then the market. The lecture, the conversation is about a life on big techs, right? So in the tech sector. So I was privileged to, during my career, be able to work on two of the biggest companies of our generation. And it's great, but everything has a very good side and a not so good side. Nothing is perfect, right? So first, and the other thing is, I like long-term relationships, right? When I choose what I'm gonna do, I like to stick with my choice. And if any challenges are gonna come my way, I would like to solve those challenges. And that's something that many times your generation, they simply decide to check. They say, hey, I don't like this, let's go this other way. No, stick for some time. You need to show that you're bringing results, that any blockers that come, that comes your way, you are able to surpass, and so on and so forth. I had a lot of young direct reports, and many times, I'm not saying that all of them are like this, but many times in the face of adversity, they choose to change roles, change companies, change whatever. Give some time, right? Problems are gonna happen, and you're gonna learn more from problems than from anything else, right? Bill Gates used it to say success is a lousy teacher. It teaches smart persons or smart people that they are good enough, right? So working at Microsoft and Google, and Microsoft, I had the opportunity to learn from scratch. So I grew inside Microsoft. I was an individual contributor, I was a seller, and I went up to the management chain. I went up into a director position. Then I moved it to the United States. The business that I used it to run at Microsoft had more than 150 people spread all over Latin America. But in order to do something like this, they have a lot of processes. And I was complaining about the process. Oh my God, the contract is only like this, and I cannot change the contract. If I'm gonna talk with the president or with the governor of a particular state or a particular country, I need to go by their laws and not by our laws, right? Not by our model. And I was, oh my God, I need to change this, I need to change that. And then I moved to Google. At Google, you can change everything. But then you don't have processes. So it takes more time in order to make things happen. So what is the best scenario? I still do not have the answer. But the point here is everywhere you go, you're going to face the good and you're going to face the bad. Look into the good as something that you're going to spread out to your team, and you're going to use it to accelerate the results. And the bad, you were there to change. There is something that I hear a lot in those companies, is that when you cannot change something, they say, it is what it is. And today I have in my office a sticker that says, it is what it is, but it will become what you make it. Do not accept everything the way it is. You were there to make a change, right? And the other thing that, as I spoke in the beginning, it's great that you guys in this symposium are here in an industry track, because you do the bits and bytes every day with your teachers and so on and so forth. So, and the opportunity to interact with the industry is not as available as with theory, right? So take advantage of that, because if you look into those companies, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, they dropped college in order to build Microsoft, right? Sergey Brin and Larry Page, they dropped college in order to build Google, right? Steve Jobs, man. So we live in an industry where now certification, doctorates, everything, they're getting more and more relevant, but not necessarily. People that are gonna make great things, they're gonna see those things in college, early in life, but sometimes it will need the decision to go one way or the other. If you see great sport people, right? LeBron James, Kobe Bryant. I'm gonna skip college and I'm going straight to the NBA. Of course, we're talking about the different ones, the great ones, but we are here to try to be great. So assess everything that comes in your way, and maybe in the future, like rain is being built, you can also, and I love the question about what took you to move from the college to the company that was made back there. So think about it. And then the market today. AI. You guys live in the perfect moment. Go deep into that. And I didn't know the content of the other presentation. So what we can do with that is amazing. We're talking about a moment, there was a lecture that we use it to use with customers at Microsoft that was about the fourth industrial revolution. So we had a few industry revolutions. Now we are leaving what they call the fourth industry revolution that is about technology. I believe we are in the way to the fifth industrial revolution that is AI. Right? But then they say, oh, AI is going to take my job. Is it? Do we still have those people in the office that use it to type in the machines, because not everybody was able to type on the typing machines? Do we still have people pushing buttons on an elevator? So some professions, they will disappear, but many others are going to come up. Professions that we do not even know that they exist. Who would know that Instagrammer would be a profession? Digital influencer. Those people make more money than the vast majority of course, the successful ones. But it's not that AI is going to take out jobs from people. No, it's going to create more jobs, because today the unemployment rate is lower than ever, and we have much more people in the world and working. Let's say that 100 years ago, 150 years ago, women were not allowed to work, right? So when that happened, at least we doubled the amount of people working in the market. And then we have today an unemployment rate lower than 150 years ago. So don't worry about the positions that are not going to exist anymore because of technology. Worry about what's going to be created, because that's where the opportunity is. And last but not least, they also talked about it, quantum computing, right? So quantum computing, when combined with AI, man, it's going to do freaking stuff, amazing stuff. Medicine, it's going to increase longevity. It's going to help us to identify diseases very early, and by that, we will not need the medicine. We will cut off the disease at the beginning, and so on and so forth. So the opportunity with those two things are huge. Focus on those two things, because there are great chances that you're going to be successful if you focus on that. Programming, oh, I'm going to put what I want in an AI, and it's going to program. It's going to be the 50 years ago typewriters. So it's about having a great idea, not about knowing how to transform that idea into code anymore. So think about it and see what you're going to do with your career. So that said, it was a little bit about what I would like to share with you. And that QR code, you have the link for my LinkedIn profile. So if you want to reach out, if you want to get in contact, I'm gonna be more than happy to talk with each one of you, and I'm open for questions if you have any. Please.
So I know you talked in the beginning about like how you needed like your family and just like your friends and everything like that. Was there a moment in your career where you felt like your job was kind of overtaking your personal life? And like, how did you handle that? Or how did you really separate that and keep that balance?
Excellent question. I'm very, very focused on whatever I do. And that was another thing that took me towards the decision to drop management. I said, if I stick here, I will not be a good father. I will not be a reasonable husband. I will be, because we're thinking their lives, right, with people are so old. Yes, there were some times where the work was overwhelming. As a matter of fact, and that's part where it connects with the thing that you need to have a great partner in your life. Because I received my offer to work at Microsoft 15 days prior to my wedding day. And I was supposed to move from the place I was in and my fiance was in to a state that was like a 6 hours flight from there and only like one flight a day. And I received the offer and I called her and I said, hey, I have this offer in my hand. What should I do? And she said, oh, it's your dream job. It's your dream company. Take it. And we're going to decide what we're going to do later. And I accepted. And then it was good that I was not, it didn't took me to move to that other state. But at some point, for being in the place that we work, I had to travel a lot. I had to, let's say, travel 3 weeks each month. And when the pandemic came, she told me one sentence. Have you noticed that we never spent so much time married? Because I had never spent more than a month at home. So yes, but then you need to choose, right? So it was one speed until we had kids. When we were pregnant from our first daughter, I talked to my manager and I said, hey, I'm gonna work until December. And then for 3 months, I'm not gonna travel. Because she was gonna be born on January. I'm not gonna travel. And he said, are you crazy? You have a quota. If you don't travel, we don't close business. No, I said, hey, let's do the fall. The Microsoft fiscal year is from July to June. So I would take a break. I would continue to work, but not traveling. January, February, March. I said, I'm gonna do 70% of my number by December. If I do 70% of the number by December, do you allow me not to travel for 1 quarter? And said, it's impossible. Okay, I allow the challenge, right? I did 85% of my number until December. And then I didn't travel for 3 months. And that was the first year where a salesperson outside the headquarters won the Gold Club Award. So you need to find the balance. So you're going to work in one speed up to the moment that you have kids, and then in another speed after you got kids. And if you plan it well, and if you execute it well, because on a power plant, everything is beautiful, right? But if you execute well, today, I'm 48. I have been delaying my retirement for the past 3 years because they present me a new challenge and I like the challenge and I take the challenge, right? But if I decide to retire, and I'm working on that, now the target is 50. At 50, I would like to stop this big tech world, right? It's not that I'm gonna stop working, but plan. If you plan, you are able to balance. Thank you for your question. Go ahead.
Since you have like had very hard decisions to make in your life, like maybe like moving out from the med school or going or like operating your company that you built. So what decision would you say was the most toughest decision in your life, and which would be the most rewardful or the fruitful one? And also one more question: so how do you view change in a more personal level?
Thank you. Amazing questions. And yeah, it's not easy to change, and I'm gonna connect the answers. I'm gonna try to connect the answers. It's not easy to change, so every change is complex. And sometimes even when you are in the best moment of your life, if you're leaving what you aspired for a long time, you might have problems, right? And it might take time for you to adapt to each change. I would say that the most difficult one was when I decided to close my company, right? And go back to be an intern. I had dropped med school in the past, so my parents were, you give up on everything. Now you're giving up on the company. What the hell? And they likely didn't support me when I dropped med school. They were not supporting me when I decided to close the company. And my father was like my partner in the company. So it was not only on me. So it was very complex because he would like the company to continue to run. And I said, I'm not going to put any more effort into that because it's not going to pay off. So it took a huge, how can I say, charge on me, because that period of my life, I went bankrupt. I didn't have money. I didn't have a bank account because the company that was not closing and was not being profitable was taking everything that I had built. And of course, I was also enjoying life, going out and spending a lot. So it took me 2 years to rebuild my financial situation, and that was very impactful. And the other one was moving here to the United States. We planned it all. It was working like a clock, but some things you do not have control. So when you, and many of you that come from other countries to study here, when you go into a process of taking a visa, or you don't control. It's there. It's on the US government. And it took another huge charge on me. I had depression. I had anxiety crisis. I had panic attacks. I mean, medicine until today, right? Because of everything that was going around me, despite the fact that, hey, I finally got to come to the United States to work in a big company. And despite all that, it takes a toll, right? And you need to be ready to manage the toll. And sometimes you're not going to be able to manage by yourself. And that's where family and friends have a huge part on the successful journey that you're trying to pursue.
Two questions. My first is that how much of your work is divided between like the technical, like analytics aspect, and the other part is like interpersonal and reaching out to people to meet your quota? And then the second one is that being in the workforce for quite a while, how do you stay competitive? As the changes come with like tech innovations in the field.
Amazing questions. You're going to be very successful. Well, I love the technical part Unfortunately, today, I'm not that into it. But I started opening computers and building computers, motherboards, processors, memory, hard drives and everything. So I like it a lot. But, and that helps me to talk about the cloud architecture, to understand storage, egress and ingress data. But I'm not able to understand a conversation like the one that was earlier presented anymore. And there was one quantum computing project recently that we were doing with an institution where I entered the conference call and they were talking. I said, what language are you speaking? What the hell is that? And I started to look the names of the people, and the one that had least papers published had 17. And I said, I'm in the wrong place. But I was not. The point is, you need to be able to balance those two things, the interpersonal relationships, the chain management, how you report to your senior leaders, because as much in the command chain you go up, less tech they know. They know business, right? So you need to balance. And the other thing is that you're gonna do business normally with business decision makers, not with the technical decision makers. The technical decision makers are gonna be your supporters, in sales, they call them power sponsors. But they are not the ones that are gonna make the deal done. They're not the ones that are gonna sign the contract. The ones that sign the contract are the ones that are gonna get an ROI out of it, right? The company will profit by doing that. If it's a government, it's gonna increase its services, the satisfaction of the population, so on and so forth. So it's tricky, but when you have that tech eye, I would say you will be able to analyze better the data. You would be able to find alternative paths much faster and better paths than if you stick only with the business side. So, and that's what we call a white fly. You do not find white flies flying around. They're all dark, right? So when you find someone in the business that understands both the tech and the business, that's perfect. Because that person is gonna drive the right architecture, is gonna size the project in the best way in order to get return from investment for the customer. The customer is gonna trust more that kind of people, so on and so forth. There are some people that they only know how to do relationship, and there are some people that they only know how to do technical stuff. If you find yourself in the middle,
Yes.
yes. Thank you.
Something related to the previous question and from my previous experience, have you ever has it ever happened to you that you miscommunicated something or you did over commitment to the client just to sell something?
That's an amazing question. As a seller, we are here to sell drinks. The tech people are here to make the drinks true, right? And then you need to rely on the potential of your technical team, of the technology or of the platform that you are selling. So that is one saying in sales that if you are a good seller, you can sell a popsicle to an Eskimo, right? But the point is, the Eskimo needs to see value on that popsicle, right? So do not ever, and that's something that I really try to do, oversell anything. Don't do that. Do not commit what you cannot deliver. But sometimes and those are the things that you cannot control. Let's say you have a team, you close a deal, and the head of the technical team moves towards another person. You cheer for that person's career, so you're happy. But at the same time, all the history about the project is gone, and you need to rebuild sometimes from scratch. So the issues I have had, because yes, I had issues, are more in that sense. It's not that we oversold anything, but the way it was supposed to be implemented didn't exactly happen the way it was supposed to happen. And it's a very complex situation. Normally, in my case, I try to build a business case. And then the company I work for needs to invest some money to compensate the lack of that particular person and try to, or you bring more into the table to the customer, because the one thing that you cannot lose is the trust from the customer, the trust from the market. I normally say, I was Carlos from Microsoft, I'm Carlos from Google, but I'm never gonna be someone else. I'm always gonna be Carlos. So the brand that you build into yourself, being side by side with your customer, whatever happens, is very important, but never oversell anything, or you're gonna be in big trouble, because even the tech team is not gonna help you. Thank you for your question.
Another question that I can answer. So I saw your Instagram, you have spent 15 years at Microsoft.
Mhm.
So what made you, I'm pretty sure it was a new challenge that you liked at Google. So is there anything else that you found to change from Microsoft to Google, and what kind of a culture change you noticed in both of these companies?
Awesome question. Guys, you ask amazing questions. Yes, we do not leave companies. We leave bosses. Right? So I shifted from one company for the other, particularly because a change on the command that I had. And unfortunately, the cultures were not the same. And that's where I took the decision to be a person of character, of honor, of value, and say, hey, it's not the company, but this particular person, right? Their values are not aligned with mine. And the things that we cannot control. A person that I admire a lot offered me a project, right? And it said, hey, I would like you to help me to build that from scratch. So I had, from one side, an amazing challenge, right? At the other side, a lousy boss, right? And two amazing companies. And then I had to do a leap of faith, right? Yes, once again, the change of cultures hits you high. Just for you to have an idea, at Microsoft, for the same market, in the same industry, I use it to run a business of $634 million. At Google, once again, same industry, same market, $40 million. So the opportunity is huge. But we are still in the path of having the capacity to embrace that opportunity. And that sometimes is frustrating because you see the opportunity in front of you, but you know that if you try to embrace, you're going to be overselling. You're going to be selling something that you are still not ready to deliver. So it's hard to manage this kind of things, but then the team you have with you is the most important thing. If you share with them, if you're open with them about the challenges and you're all together, it's a huge differentiator. And one thing that we do in our team is, for example, every Friday, we have a meeting in the morning that for me is like sacred. Every Friday I'm there, no matter where I am. Even if I'm on vacation, I join that meeting. That it's not to talk about business. It's each one of us, we talk about what happened during the week, what we learned, and if we have any problems at home that you just want to share with each other. And in those meetings, we have people crying, we have people laughing, we have people from all over Latin America, right? So when you build something like this, whatever comes your way, it's gonna be less difficult. But once again, difficult is good. Are we good? Guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the symposium. Thank you for the amazing questions. Thank you.